It was a cloudy Monday morning when Emily, a quiet 17-year-old girl with long brown hair and timid eyes, walked into Westwood High with her books clutched tightly to her chest, hoping as always to make it through the day unnoticed, but life rarely gave her that peace. For months, a group of popular students had found a cruel amusement in targeting her shyness, turning her silence into weakness and her kindness into a reason to mock, and though she often dreamed of standing up for herself, her fear always chained her back, making her the perfect victim. But today was going to be different, though she didn't know it yet, because destiny had written a chapter for her that would change the way everyone at Westwood High saw her forever. The bullies, Jessica, the self-proclaimed queen of the school, with her perfectly styled blonde hair and poisonous smile, and her two loyal shadows, Megan and Rachel, had decided to take their cruelty a step further. Tired of just whispers and insults, they wanted entertainment, something dramatic, something that would make the whole school laugh at Emily. As Emily walked into the art room after classes for her project work, she felt an unusual silence, the kind that prickled the back of her neck, and before she could react, strong hands grabbed her from behind. Ropes were pulled tight against her wrists and ankles, and before she could even scream, a strip of tape sealed her lips, her heart pounding so loudly she thought it might burst, her books clattering to the ground as Jessica's laughter echoed through the empty room, mocking, sharp, and filled with cruelty. "Look at her," Jessica sneered, holding a black marker, "the little mouse who thinks she can hide, let's make her a masterpiece." And the others giggled, picking up markers of different colors, their eyes glinting with wicked excitement as they began drawing on Emily's face, her arms, even her school uniform, sketching ridiculous shapes and writing insults like loser, coward, and invisible across her body, snapping pictures on their phones while Emily's tears streamed down, mixing with the smudged ink, her body trembling with humiliation and rage. Yet deep within her, a spark lit up, a fire she had never allowed herself to feel before, as Jessica leaned closer, drawing a crown on Emily's forehead and whispering, "This will be your throne, little freak." Emily's eyes hardened for the first time in her life, no longer the eyes of a victim but of someone awakening. Someone realizing that silence had only fed the cruelty, and as the bullies continued laughing, Emily remembered the words her late grandmother used to tell her, "A time comes when even the quietest bird must spread its wings or remain in a cage forever," and suddenly, with a strength she didn't know she had, she pulled against the ropes, her wrists burning as the coarse fibers cut into her skin, adrenaline surging through her veins, her mind screaming not in fear but in defiance. The bullies didn't notice at first, too busy admiring their artwork, until the chair jolted against the floor, startling them, and Emily, using every ounce of her determination, twisted her hands until the rope loosened enough to slip one wrist free, the sudden freedom igniting her courage, and with one swift move, she ripped the tape from her lips, her breath coming in gasps, her voice trembling but loud enough to echo through the room. "Stop!" The bullies froze, shocked by the sudden force in her tone, Jessica's smirk faltering as Emily's free hand grabbed the black marker, her eyes burning with something none of them had ever seen before, a fierce, unstoppable fire. For the first time, Emily wasn't running, she wasn't begging, she wasn't silent, she was standing, and the bullies had no idea that the shy girl they thought would always break was about to rise stronger than they ever imagined, ready to turn their cruelty back on them. And as she stood there, rope still dangling from her wrist and ink smeared across her skin, she felt a new version of herself being born, one that would never again let anyone decide her worth. And though the chapter of her revenge was just beginning, Emily knew one thing with absolute certainty: this time, the story would not end with her tears but with their shame, and the whole school would soon know that the quiet girl had found her voice, and once found, it would never be silenced again. And dear viewers, if you want to see how Emily's courage transforms not just her life but also teaches the bullies a lesson they'll never forget, make sure you subscribe right now and stay tuned for Chapter 2, because the real storm is only about to begin. The room was heavy with the silence that followed Emily's voice, a silence so thick it made Jessica's fake confidence waver as Emily, her chest rising and falling with sharp breaths, stepped forward with the marker gripped tightly in her trembling hand, though this time her trembling was not from fear but from the adrenaline of finally breaking the chains that had bound her for so long. Jessica opened her mouth to laugh, to regain control of the situation, but the words never came because Emily's eyes, fierce and blazing, held a strength that silenced her, a strength Jessica had never expected from the girl she had spent months tormenting, and before any of them could react, Emily moved quickly, grabbing Rachel's wrist and twisting the marker into her hand, the sharp squeak of ink scraping against skin as Emily scribbled a bold word across her arm. "Cruel," her voice steady as she spoke, "this is who you are," and the shock on Rachel's face was almost comical as she tried to pull away, but Emily was relentless, turning toward Megan, who backed away with wide eyes, stammering, "We were just joking." But Emily didn't flinch, pressing the marker against Megan's forehead and writing the word coward in large letters, her own voice shaking but firm. You hide behind your friends to feel powerful, and as the black ink spread across Megan's pale skin, Megan's face turned crimson with shame. The tables suddenly turned as the predator became the prey. Jessica, the self-proclaimed queen, stood frozen, her phone clutched in her manicured hand, her mind racing to find control, but Emily turned toward her slowly, like a storm gathering strength, and said in a voice that echoed through the room, "And you, Jessica. You'll wear what you truly are," and with swift determination, Emily pressed the marker to Jessica's cheek, writing the word bully in bold, unmissable strokes, the ink standing out like a brand. Jessica gasping in disbelief, her hand shooting up to wipe it off but smudging it instead, the dark letters spreading even wider across her face. Tears filled Jessica's eyes, not from pain but from the horror of losing the image she had spent so long building, and for the first time, Emily saw fear in her bully's eyes. The other two girls looked around nervously, as though the walls themselves were watching, and Emily's voice grew stronger as she continued, "Do you think this is funny? Taking someone's peace, stealing their dignity? You thought I was weak, but weakness isn't staying quiet, it's being so empty inside that you can only feel strong by hurting someone else," her words hitting them harder than any punch could, and though Emily's hands still shook, her spirit stood taller than it ever had before. Suddenly, the classroom door creaked open and a few students peered inside, their eyes widening as they saw the scene, the untouchable trio marked with words of shame, their phones abandoned, their confidence shattered. And whispers began to spread like wildfire through the halls. Jessica got marked by Emily, a sentence that carried shock and admiration alike, and Emily, realizing that the eyes of her peers were on her, didn't shrink back this time. She lifted her chin, her ink-stained face becoming a symbol of resilience, and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "No one deserves to be treated like they're nothing. If you see it happening, don't stay quiet. Silence is what keeps bullies strong," her voice cracking but unwavering, and the crowd outside grew larger, students recording. Not to humiliate her but to capture the moment a shy girl finally broke her chains. Jessica's face turned pale, the word bully etched like a scar across her skin, and in a desperate attempt to save her reputation, she shouted, "You'll regret this," but even she could hear the weakness in her own voice, while Emily stood steady, her eyes filled with a new kind of fire, and whispered back, "No, Jessica. Only you will regret it," before dropping the marker onto the floor and walking past her tormentors, the ropes trailing behind her like broken chains, her heart pounding but her steps light with the weight of victory. As she stepped into the hallway, the students parted for her, some clapping softly, others smiling in quiet support, and Emily realized she had not just marked her bullies, she had marked a change in the entire school, a reminder that even the quietest voice, when brave enough to speak, could silence the loudest cruelty. And though she knew this was just the beginning, that standing tall meant more battles to come, Emily welcomed the challenge, because she was no longer the shy girl hiding in corners, she was the girl who had turned her pain into power, and nothing could take that away. So, dear viewers, if you believe that courage can rise from even the darkest moments and want to see more stories where the underdog finds their voice and changes everything, then don't forget to subscribe to this channel right now. Your support helps us bring more inspiring and powerful stories just like Emily's, and trust me, the next chapter will be even